Good afternoon. I'm Chris Cooney with the Metro South Chamber of Commerce, and it's a delight to be back here. Not for the reasons we are, but just to see everyone. And it's summertime, and I think we're all trying to make the best of an awkward situation. This is our 17th week of COVID resources and recovery calls. I think we've been on every week with the exception of 2. And we've had pretty much this crew on giving updates and providing updates. And so this will be recorded as the rest have and be posted to our COVID recovery page at metrosouthchamber.com. And that can be viewed. Actually, many people have gone onto that site and checked out the videos that we've run on these as we've updated. As you know, there's a lot of information that comes out at these, and sometimes it takes some time to go back, especially if you're talking to your accountant or your attorney and trying to figure out what might be best for your situation. We ask you to post all questions down in the chat area or the Q&A. I'll be checking both. And we're delighted that our panelists have agreed to address your question and post resources and whatnot. Did want to ask Lexi, I know we've got people out on vacation too, Emma's out today, but if you can track down, there's a new executive order just came out a few minutes ago, I guess, from sorry, I'm stealing the thunder of MLBD for travel, especially for colleges and students coming back to the state. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And if you're traveling from any of the high impact states, you're going to have some paperwork you're going to need to get done. So that is important for employers to realize, as well as folks that are in the tourism industry that are on this call. I want to thank Bob Coughlin, president of the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. We're going to hear from him in a little while, but he's with us today. He's going to talk a little bit about maybe some of the opportunities, the silver lining that might come out of this for the state. I also want to thank our partners who have helped promote the calls over the Business Association, the Brockton Area NAACP, the Campello and Montello Business Associations of Brockton, the Cape Verdean Association of Brockton, the Easton Chamber of Commerce, the East Bridgewater Chamber of Commerce and Business Association, the Haitians United, the Massachusetts Small Business Development Centers, the Norwell Chamber, the Pembroke Chamber. This week, we had a chance to tour the Sampson Funeral Home, which was, of course, one of the original Shoe Baron estates, gorgeous building. Mayor, I know you and I were talking a little bit about the uptick in numbers last week. This time, you were saying we're the lowest ever since this all started. And now we've ticked up a little bit in the city. So what can you tell us about what's happening?
Great. Chris, thanks for having me on. Great to see Susan, who was a state rep many years ago. So great public servant, is going to give great information today. And I was contacted by Rob McLaughlin from the COVID Command Center. So Brockton is now designated a priority by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts because we are seeing some uptick. So since last week, we've lost 2 additional loss of life. We're at 268 deaths of Brockton residents that have perished because of this nasty, deadly virus. And current cases is 63, Chris, and that's up 9 as an all-time low. And 4,336 total cases today, which is up 58 since last week at this time. So I have a 4 o'clock Zoom call today with the state and with Dr. Rick Herman, again, my medical pandemic, and Sue Joss at Neighborhood Health Center. And increased testing is coming to Brockton, again, thanks to the governor and lieutenant governor and NEMA and DPH. And, you know, we have to be diligent and vigilant. And, you know, when there's a house party last Saturday night with 400 people, it's not appropriate, first of all, in a residential neighborhood. But during COVID, it's absolutely asinine. And soccer game of 200 people at Snowfield the other day where Brockton PD had to send people away again. So we just have to continue the efforts, practice the social distancing, the mandatory mask wearing. You know, we actually have graduation for high school this weekend. We did the virtual last month. We're doing in person starting tonight. Small scale. It's going to be broken. If you know Brockton High, it's broken into buildings, right? The azure, the green, the yellow, the blue. We're going to be doing it 1 tonight, 3 tomorrow, 2 on Sunday. But we have to adhere to what the medical professionals are telling us. So it is, it's a daunting time right now, but at the same time, we can control our destiny by really pushing what needs to be done. Also learning from what the southern states are doing wrong. We don't need that right now. As you all know, Brockton has been truly impacted physically, financially, emotionally by COVID. But I just want to thank all of you for your response, for your leadership, for your professionalism, and quite honestly, for helping Brocktonians as we try to go through the uncertain times.
Again, if you have questions for the mayor, you can post them down below. I know you and I had a chance to tour the Sampson Funeral Home, which is a beautiful building. I was trying to convince him that would be a great building for a mayor to purchase as their home. It's really been very well maintained, and it offers a great location on Main Street. I think 6 or 8 people have toured it with some interest, and we had a chance actually to meet Tom Sampson, who's the fourth generation owner of that. But I mean, you've been one of the mayors that have allowed construction to continue. I was telling people today on a call, I'm positive, I'm very positive, despite what's going on everywhere else, that we're well positioned to get into something that we built next week with Joffrey. That's his second project.
And what we did different than the city of Boston is we kept construction going, and it's really starting to pay off. And thanks to, again, the friendship of the administration, Governor Bacon, and specifically Lieutenant Governor Polito, that relationship was fostered under the late Mayor Bill Carpenter and continued under Mayor Rodriguez, and definitely continues under my administration. So the Ganley building, the old Kresge building is teed up. 19 Main Street, I just filed a tie application with the City Council. I took a tour of 28 Petronelli Way, where Marvin Hagler, middleweight, undisputed middleweight champ of the world, Marvin used to train. We have a lot right now teed up in Brockton, and Sampson Funeral Home was built by the Kingmans, Shoe Barons, but also Wall Street Barons in Manhattan back in the day, and the Sampsons have owned it since the 20s. And it's a gem. It really is. It's on the register of historic sites, and it's just beautiful to see that. I did go home, Chris, and ask my wife if I could move in. I was baptized right next door at St. Pat's, and she said, "Go ahead, Bob, but we're staying here." So I don't know. I have to figure that out. She's a voter. I need to keep the voters happy. So no, again, listen, I say this and I mean this. Brockton is ripe for development through the efforts of Margaret and Susan and Fred Clark, who was born and raised here in the City of Champions. It's about coming together as a community, but providing the tools in the toolbox for success for developers locally, but also those coming here. 35 minutes on the 3 train stops to get into South Station. And I say it and I mean it. If Brockton was a stock, we should all be buying it, because right now it's a hot commodity. So thank you for what you guys are doing, and I'm ready to listen to Mr. Coughlin today.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it. So I want to jump over to Margaret LaForest from the Mass Office of Business Development. This is the first week that the state has moved to every other week for calls, so we didn't really have a chance to talk to Secretary Keneally today, but I know the governor still is obviously active in issuing executive orders. What can you tell us from Mass Office of Business Development?
Sure, Chris, I'll be really brief today. Looking forward to hearing from Bob Coughlin myself. So this week, the governor updated the eviction moratorium and extended that through October. So that was something much anticipated and hoped for, particularly in a community impacted as much as Brockton, and then lower moderate income residents and commercial tenants as well. So that has been enacted. Cocktails to go started up this week. And then today, as you referenced, the travel advisory. So starting effective August 1st, anyone traveling into Massachusetts from a non-designated state. So we're recognizing that there are states with lower public health data analysis than us. So the other New England states, as well as New York, New Jersey, so the travel advisory is not applicable if those are the states you're traveling into Massachusetts from. But beyond that, we are requiring residents to complete this online form. mass.gov/mhtraveler is the information that, which is great. And in the meantime, I think want to just say briefly to piggyback on Mayor Sullivan's remarks that we really recognize the value of Brockton investments. I know in the economic development bill, we talked about that last week. I really see some great synergies for Brockton. And Susan and I have the privilege of touring one of Joffrey's previous projects with you. And something that I celebrate about Brockton when I'm speaking is that the Opportunity Zone is a federal investment program to incentivize development. And Brockton is rated in the top 1% in the country. So Mayor Sullivan, I concur. If you want to invest money in Brockton, in development, Brockton's where to spend your money. And if you're a developer listening, Sue and I want to help you spend that money. And if you're a life science company tuning in with us this week, because we have Bob Coughlin here, the Commonwealth has tremendous incentives through the Mass Life Science Center, and then all of the other resources we offer. Many on what we call our menu are applicable to life science companies. So by all means, please reach out to Sue and I. We have our contact information, and glad to help, and look forward to hearing from our keynote today. So I'm here if there's any questions.
Thank you, Margaret. And I'm glad you brought up the opportunity zones. We were on the call 1 o'clock today with Jay Peabody from Partridge, Hahn and Snow. They are an accounting firm out of Boston that did an Opportunity Zone workshop with us back 2.5 years ago when it was first announced. And they're coming back. So they'll be with us on August 21st. And they're going to talk about why Opportunity Zones make real sense right now for companies who find themselves in Boston, but maybe most of their employees are along Route 24. This is a really good tool to really find some incredible savings from investing and holding a property down here as you own it for 10 years versus leasing maybe extra space in Boston that you don't need and that your employees don't really want to go to anymore. And that is difficult to possibly commute from the garage up to the elevator via social distancing and all that. So thank you for bringing that up. So Susan, I know everyone's wondering if the $600 a week is going to be extended. I know that's really not in your wheelhouse, but I know that you're probably hopeful too that something will happen. We were talking a little bit about just the folks being called back to work and whatnot. I know you have a background in the workforce development, so what can you tell us along those lines?
Yeah, well, I think the bigger concern is really if they can get it done sooner rather than later, because if there is a delay, that's going to cause a delay in all of the state's systems to be able to then get that $600 back out again, because they're going to have to start over from scratch. So there's going to be a significant time period between when people get that $600, which can have a significant impact if you're relying on it. So I think the timing is what's important here. So, that's I think my biggest concern is, if they're going to do it, they should, try to get that done sooner rather than later. And then the other piece on the travel order for businesses is that they're really asking for businesses to discourage their employees from doing any business that's not within the lower risk states, and also urging them to strongly discourage their employees from taking leisure travel to those lower risk destinations as well. And that if you're not compliant, there's a $500 a day fine as well. And that's something new that we haven't seen in the past. And also,
employers going to have their employees fill those forms out on a weekly basis, or?
No, I think it's when you're issued that form when you actually enter or come in or when you come back. So everyone's required to fill those forms, and that the employees are going to have to fill those forms, the travel order form, just like everybody else. And then the other piece is for hotels and Airbnbs. They are required now upon booking to inform anyone who's making a reservation about the travel order. And not only that, but also when upon arrival, to be told that there is that 14-day quarantine. And they're also encouraging those businesses and Airbnbs and any kind of hotel lodging to add that to their website.
So that was just announced today. It goes into effect next Saturday.
Yeah, August 1st.
We'll try to post what we can off that form, because quite frankly, folks may be driving to tough states and then coming back. So of course, the whole idea really is to decrease exposure. So employers can be that point of contact to remind their employees that they need to fill this form out and to quarantine if need be, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so if we can get that form, then we'll post that down below, and we'll also have it on the recovery resource page. Thank you very much. So I want to jump over to Eli Spayu, who's with the Small Business Administration. He's a liaison with about 170 banks now and financial institutions in the region and in the state, issuing these PPP loans and whatnot. I know there's a lot of speculation, Eli. What's new at this point?
Well, Chris, good afternoon again. Pleasure to be part of this call. There is absolutely good news on the horizon from the SBA side. We issued yesterday the loan forgiveness guidance for our lenders. So finally, we have a procedure in place. We have a portal that's going to be made available to bankers. So banks, credit unions, all PPP participating institutions, but not borrowers. So borrowers, and just want to make this clear, borrowers still have to go through their lender for loan forgiveness. So I know of a handful of banks, credit unions, and the such that are taking applications, loan forgiveness applications currently, but the effective date is August 10th, and that was the long-awaited and anticipated procedural notice. We have it, sent it out to the lenders, yesterday, and again, as always, I do want to go quickly over the numbers if I have a few minutes. and share with you where we are here in the state. And I'm going to jump quickly through the slides because I know some of this information is sort of repeat from what we've had from the weeks prior. So let me see real quick. All righty. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So real quick, just want to remind everybody that August 8th is the ultimate last day that folks can apply for PPP. So it's the 8th is a Saturday, so truly there's only 2 weeks left for small businesses who have not taken advantage of the PPP loan program to really apply for a new loan. So there is some talks, and you know that we cannot talk about proposed legislation, but the Secretary of the Treasury did mention that increases could be made available to small businesses. So keep that in mind for those small business owners who either did not calculate the correct loan amount or found out later that they may have been eligible for more. Just be on the lookout. Nothing's set in stone yet, but there's some movement on that front. So as far as the numbers go, you can see $518 billion, almost 5 million approved PPP loans. Phenomenal numbers. I mean, this is really truly could not have been done if it was not for the collective effort of all our lending partners, all our participating lending institutions. Small for the most part, right? You've got over 5,300 small lending institutions with less than $10 billion in assets who did the lion's share of these loans. So kudos to all of our local community banks, credit unions. We're up to 490 participating banks and credit unions here in the state. So greatly appreciate everybody's effort on that front. Again, by the numbers, you can see here that about 86% of all the loans are for less than $150,000. So we've all heard those rumors that there may be additional easement on the loan forgiveness application. Again, they're rumors at this point, but if anything happens, I highly want to encourage folks to sign up for our newsletter. So if you go to our mass.gov/MA webpage, you can sign up for our newsletter. And if there's any movement in that front, we're going to blast the newsletter out to all folks who are registered on our website, and you're going to get the latest and greatest. So hub zones, we talked about opportunity zones here on the call today. Brockton does have quite a few. It's got a large hub zone area. So for the most part, hub zones and opportunity zones overlap, but they're not interchangeable. But we've got a heightened focus for hub zones for rural areas, which rural we don't have a lot here in Massachusetts. But you can see, again, these are numbers that folks have already seen before. On this next slide here, I do have approvals on the economic injury disaster loan. So advances, we have exhausted all $20 billion available on the program. You can see here, there's 5.7 million, right? Over 5.7 million applicants who received advances under the EIDL Advance program, and over $150 billion in EIDL loan approvals. So this is as of mid-July. But again, pretty impressive numbers overall. Still, there's money available under the PPP program, and here you can see for the state, almost 266,000, right, shy of 100 units of businesses impacted either via the PPP, the EIDL, or the EIDL Advance. So again, I couldn't be happier for the work we've done here, and again, I'll be here if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Eli, and thank you for everything you've done up to this point. We look forward to catching up with you on the next call. We're going to take next week. We're going to go to every other week, it looks like, at this point. So the next, on the 7th, we'll be back, and we fully expect that Congress will have, and the President will have signed Phase 4, and we will give you all of the updates. We'll also fill in any resources on our resource page if it happens before that point. So again, thanks for the update and for your partnership in all of this.
Thank you, Chris.
I look forward to seeing you on the 7th with some good news and probably expanded rules and opportunities for businesses. My understanding is that there is a push on both sides, the House, the Senate, and the Democrats, Republicans, to focus on gateway cities and cities where there has been a lot of unrest this summer, those with large populations of women and minority-owned businesses. And so we're hoping to see what I think they're calling the Main Streets program, lending program, grant program that may come out of this. And we'll be excited to talk about that and how that can benefit our companies right here in the region. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Fred Clark. Fred Clark is the president of Bridgewater State University. He is a native son of Brockton, and he has served as the chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors for the last almost 2 years and has provided great leadership. You can only imagine what his days are like and his nights are like in terms of trying to run a small city in Bridgewater, made up of seasonal students and all of what goes into that. Welcome, Fred, and thanks for taking the time to be part of this. And I don't know if you wanted to comment on this new travel and how that may impact students coming back to Bridgewater, or how that will go into the mix.
Yeah, just briefly, I actually think the governor's travel guidance is very helpful, because what that does is it allows us to bring students to a place like Bridgewater, and then we can test them. And we're going to test our students. And with the Broad Institute in Cambridge, we'll have results within 24 hours. So
wow.
The option was to keep them in residence in our dorms for 2 weeks and not move around. So, that's in the governor's guidance, and I think it's extremely helpful from our perspective. So we applaud it. And Chris, I also want to just take the time to thank you for your leadership. During these challenges, the best leaders emerge during times of crisis. And we've seen that not only with Chris Cooney, the president of the chamber, but with our mayor and with our leaders across the state. Massachusetts is a bright spot. Brockton is a bright spot. We have 3 crises, probably more: the pandemic, a recession. We have income inequality at 100-year levels. We have racial tensions. I don't think our leaders have been tested in a lifetime the way that they're being tested today. We should all be grateful, and I know I am, for the leadership we have in the mayor, in the chamber, with the governor, lieutenant governor, and across the state, and in our congressional delegation as well. But that leadership is also found in the person of Bob Coughlin. And I'm so pleased to be able to introduce him. Bobby and I have known each other for over 30 years. We both were brought together by a person that I consider a mentor, and I know Bobby does as well, Congressman Joe Moakley. And I have known Bob since he was a teenager, which makes him maybe 22, 23 years old. I don't know. We've known each other a long time. And I know his family very well. And his dad was a pillar in the community, as his mom as well. But Bob, thank you for being with us. We're in a vacation mode here, but we're really pleased that you're with us. And I've been with you every step of your career, and I followed you with great pride. And now Bobby is the president and CEO of the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. His job is to advance Massachusetts leadership in the life sciences and to grow the industry. And if you've looked at the past 10 years under his leadership, where the industry was and where it is, it's been a remarkable journey. He really works hard to foster and create an environment, and many folks across this state follow him and his leadership in doing this, but to create an environment where companies can do research, that they can develop and commercialize breakthrough therapies and cures. And he does that to a fairly well, and he'll have a lot to say about where Massachusetts is positioned in this pandemic shortly. But if you don't know, he's also served as an Undersecretary of Economic Development under Governor Patrick. He was a 3-term state representative. He's served in private industry and environmental services, capital management, venture capital. And importantly, he's also an extremely active member of his community. Honestly, the list is very long of what he's involved with, from Mass Maritime to Beth Israel Deaconess to Schwartz Center for Compassionate Healthcare. And I know he just recently ran for town meeting member. And you would think he was running for president of the United States. He didn't let up at all. He campaigned all out. He's an amazing person, an amazing father, an amazing family man, a leader, a true role model for all of us. And I just want to say everything Bobby Coughlin does, he does with passion, enthusiasm, and energy. And it is very, very easy to be his friend. And you'll see why in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Coughlin.
Fred, I think I'm gonna cry over here, Freddie. And I love when people call me Bobby, because that means they've known me since I was 12 years old, like you have. And Fred, unfortunately, I'm 51 years old now. Oh, wow. So think of how fast time passes. And I've been on board at Mass Bio now. It'll be 14 years on September 1st. Like, how can that even be, right? And I want to thank you for everyone. I want to thank you for being such a wonderful friend and all that you do. And Mr. Mayor, and Chris and Susan and Margaret and Eli, it's great to be here with you guys and everybody who's in the audience. Let me tell you why I'm so happy today, all right? One, it's Friday afternoon, and that's a good thing, even in COVID-19, right? But I'm happy because I love the Metro South Chamber. I love Bridgewater State University. I love the city of Brockton, right? I love talking about economic development. And I want to thank my awesome friend and former colleague, Vinny DiMacedo, for putting all this together, right? I think Vinny's out there in the audience, but thank you, my friend, for all that you've done in public service, and now for everything that you're doing in academia. What I'm going to do, I'm going to fly through the next 15 minutes, right? And I'm going to talk about COVID-19 and the outsized role that we're playing in that. Then I'm going to come back, talk about what we've done to solve some of the problems. I'm going to talk about how Massachusetts became the best place in the world for the life sciences. Then I'm going to talk about your location and why the future is so bright for your area, for your chamber, for your cities and towns in that region. And you can tell I'm pretty excited about it. Now let's see if I can share a screen. I think I will be able to do it. Let's see. You guys can see that, all right? Okay. Okay, now I know how to forward it. All right, let's talk about COVID-19. Just so you know, Mass Bio, Fred talked about it. We're the state's trade association, but we're not really just Massachusetts. We represent 1,300 biotech companies, pharmaceutical companies, venture capital firms, hospitals, universities, everybody that fits in the life sciences cluster. And we represent, all of the big pharma companies. So we represent companies all over the world, but we're called Mass Bio because we're situated here. Our goal is to make sure that academia, industry, government works in a true partnership so that we can advance the life sciences. Why do we want to do that? We want to do that because ultimately it helps sick people. Fred told you, and you guys know I'm a recovering politician. I thought I was in full recovery. But yeah, I ran for town meeting in the town of Denver. It was the only public office I hadn't held yet. So I figured I'd go back and join in the purest form of democracy, a New England style town meeting. So, and Fred, I topped the ticket, all right? I think I broke a record on spending the most money for a town meeting race too. That being said, why did I leave government to join the life sciences industry? And how did I learn about the life sciences industry? Well, life threw us a curveball. Over 18 years ago, my wife and I, when we were having our third child, I was just entering the legislature. We were having our third child, and we found out that little unborn baby was going to have a disease called cystic fibrosis. Rocked our world. It was horrible, right? The most tragic news you could ever receive as a parent. But I decided as a dad, what would it be that I could do? I got involved with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and actually worked and raised money to invest in companies. So I learned the venture capital side of the life sciences industry as a dad that just didn't want my kid to die before me. And I'll get back to that because I don't want you to be depressed about it, because the story gets so good. And the reason the story is so amazing, because of this industry. Let's come back to COVID-19 right now. The world changed in March. It changed drastically. And, we found out that the only way this world could get back to somewhat of a normal is with a vaccine. Did you guys ever think that we'd be having a conversation and saying that the most important thing to the world's economy right now is a vaccine? I've worked in the business for the last 14 years. I've been involved with drug discovery for the last 18 years since my little guy was born. I never thought that would be the case. It is. How has Massachusetts responded? We have over 85 companies, ladies and gentlemen, in Massachusetts proper, that is focused on COVID-19 related diagnostics, therapies, or vaccines. What's amazing, truly amazing, there's 9 vaccines in the world that are in human clinical trials right now, only 9, okay? Record time, by the way. It's amazing to see how quick they've been able to do this. And you look at the fact that two of those vaccines are from companies, one that's headquartered here in Massachusetts, Moderna, and Pfizer. The other one is actually being manufactured right here in Massachusetts. So to think that, you know, the opportunity for biopharma to show its true value right now, not only to help people, but, you know, our industries, the life sciences industry, critical role in human health. The most, we're going to talk about a few silver linings here, because we all know, guys, that COVID-19 is horrible. It's been devastating. It's just so many families have been hit, and it's horrible. But I am going to talk about some silver linings that's happened. One, right now, people realize, like, for the last 18 years, the only thing that got me out of bed every day was knowing that there were really smart people trying to figure out how to make a medicine that would keep my kid from dying. Okay? I love this industry because of that. A lot of the time, because of bad actors, people think the pharma industry is horrible, right? Because drugs are too expensive. Well, I don't think the drug my kid takes that keeps him alive is too expensive at all. In fact, it saves money because it's keeping him out of the hospital now. So if you think of 18 years, it took us 18 years and $13 billion to invent a drug that my kid started taking, Trikafta by Vertex. He started taking it 6 months ago. And it's keeping him alive. It's amazing. And it's keeping him out of the hospital. It saves money. So now people would come to me and say, why does it take so long to invent a vaccine? Well, you think about it. It took 18 years and $13 billion to, every day of my life, thousands of people working to invent a drug for cystic fibrosis. What do you think? Vaccines are just going to happen overnight? This is tricky stuff. So to think what has happened in the last 3, 4, 5 months. Well, I don't know how many months are we into this now. Since COVID-19 started, to see how far these companies have come is miraculous. And what it's going to mean moving forward, companies collaborate more, they share information more. Companies don't care who invents it, right? It's not a good revenue model when you're going to require so many billions of doses. This isn't a moneymaker. This isn't going to be a moneymaker for the pharma industry, but we need to do it. And to see companies advance so quickly because of the necessity of it, it's going to only help us do better with other diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and ALS and all these Huntington's disease and different types of cancer. We're going to be better at that after this, okay? Next slide I want to talk about is how the life sciences industry was helpful during the supply hub. When this thing came down, I think it was around March 18th, and I was working with the administration. And I got to hand it, like, another reason Massachusetts is so awesome at so many things is because it's not about Republicans or Democrats, guys. Like, look at what we're able to do. Look at Vinny, you were a Republican, weren't you? You're one of my favorite people in the world, right? And when you look at the administration, we got on the phone with Governor Baker when this thing first was happening, before they had a command center, before Secretary Sutters took everything over, and we were legitimately panicking because we weren't ready. Well, our supply chain is busted, right? We're going to learn a lot about how moving forward, we're going to shift from a just-in-time inventory mentality to a just-in-case inventory mentality. This just-in-time baloney is not good when a pandemic comes. We couldn't get PPE for all the amazing women and men who go to work every day in our frontline healthcare workers. We didn't have proper PPE to keep them safe. That's insane. And we knew that when we were calling to our suppliers overseas, they were down for the last several months. There was no way to get this stuff. So what we did, we figured we'd create a Massachusetts Life Sciences Emergency Supply Hub. I called over to the Mass Hospital Association and said, start telling us what hospitals need what and where and when. Okay, put the list together. I'm going to send out a memo. We're going to build a database, a supply hub database, where we can have all of the life science companies in Massachusetts dump the information into this database, telling us what they had in their supply rooms that they already bought, all right, for our own use, right? So we were able immediately, within 24 hours, we had over 200 companies. Not only, at first we were going to sell it, and they said, no, we're not selling this stuff, we're donating it. And literally, we were able to keep our frontline healthcare workers in the best possible. I remember on Sundays, people literally driving N95 masks and gowns from pharma companies to Brockton Hospital, right? Going down to make sure that people had what they needed. It was amazing. It was one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen, to see over 500 companies offer all those supplies. And it wasn't just supplies, folks. It was nurses, pharmacists, doctors that worked in the life sciences industry were signing up, giving their name, rank, and serial number so that they could step up when fatigue, it's not even when and if, it was when fatigue and illness was setting in. And working closely with Steve Walsh over at the Mass Health and Hospital Association and Brian Johnson at Mass Medic, which is our medical device trade association, it was truly extraordinary to see this happen. And now we're at the point where we got through the surge. Our hospitals did an extraordinary job here in the Commonwealth. The leadership coming from our elected officials and the administration is extraordinary. Believe me, I've been sharing these ideas with the biotech trade associations all over the country. We're the envy of not just the country, we're the envy of the world, how we're responding here. So it's just truly awesome to see this happening, okay? In that collaboration, to talk a little bit more about it, right? We were already collaborating. That's how we became the best place in the world for the life sciences. God knows it isn't because of the weather, right? The weather's horrible. God knows it wasn't because of traffic, right? Remember how bad traffic sucked? Well, we're gonna have to get back to our infrastructure and transportation problems once we get through COVID-19. But those are some big issues. The reason we became the best place in the world for this industry is because industry, academia, and government truly work in a partnership, right? This industry crashed in 2008. Wall Street went away. Remember? Wall Street went away in 2008. The world crashed, and we were the only place in the world to grow in the life sciences because we changed the model. We created a $10-year billion-dollar life science initiative in 2008. And as all of you know, the Baker administration, the Baker-Polito administration worked with the legislature to do a second 5-year, $500 million initiative to keep it going. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't have been able to grow from 2008 to 2012. We did that by recruiting 19 of the top 20 pharma companies to come here and have a physical presence. So why does this happen? It happens because we have 5 of the top 6 NIH-funded hospitals. It happens because we have 122 colleges and universities. Talent is our natural resource. We don't grow oranges here. We're not growing corn. What do? We make really smart people that know how to do tricky stuff, okay? This is tricky stuff. Finding a vaccine and a therapy is tricky stuff. Where's it coming from? The only thing that's going to get us out of this is science. And that only happens when everybody collaborates and works together. That's why we're so committed to equality, diversity, and inclusion too, Fred. You were talking about what we're facing here. We need the best and brightest people from all over this country and all over this world, no matter what shape, size, color, or orientation, to solve these problems. So the more diverse our workforce is, the better results we have. I know I'm starting to get into a lot of different areas here, and I want to get to Q&A, so let me go to the next slide. And this is opportunities. Now, guys, this is no baloney. These 4 bars were done before COVID-19 started, okay? This is our next 5-year strategic plan. These are the 4 pillars we're going to be focused, our opportunities for growth for our State of Possible 2025 report. So we're going to talk about expand the footprint. Let's become the best place in the world for AI, digital health, et cetera, life sciences, technology. Let's make the ecosystem more resilient to external shocks by growing commercialization and manufacturing. I'm going to talk about why that's so cool for your area, because you're not going to build these things in Cambridge or in Boston. You're not. These clusters are growing outside. And we're growing across Massachusetts. So in the old days, people would be, biotech, that's just Kendall Square. Nah, not true anymore. So then you look at the last bar, the expansion of the cluster and creation of mini clusters beyond that core best place in the world for R&D, right? We're finding we were awesome at R&D, meaning research and development. How about the M, folks? M, manufacturing. Now, COVID-19 comes into play. M is even more important than ever. We've screwed up, guys. There's certain stuff we should be making here that we don't anymore, because people wanted to do it the cheapest way. We get that. But now we know that the cheapest way isn't always the best way when supply chain breaks, okay? Now, that being said, and I mean, this isn't a scientific term or anything, when it comes to like making stuff, right? hard stuff to make, like tricky stuff, we're really good at that because our workforce, let's go back, like look at Brockton and making apparel and shoes and everything that we've done in textiles. Look at how in Massachusetts, if we were to make paper, it would be really tricky paper, like paper for currency. When you look at the fact that we manufacture things for defense contractors with the Raytheons of the world and the Mitacorps. You look at the R&D that happens. You look at the fact that we're great at precision machining. Well, over the last 10 years, we've been one of the only places in the country that grew in biomanufacturing. Why is that? To make biomanufacture, right? To biomanufacture, you're manufacturing large molecule drugs. It's living organisms that are made in a reactor, very similar to like beer or wine would be, only a little more complicated because you're actually making a medicine that you infuse into humans to cure disease and change the course of disease. We were good at that because it takes a really, really, really high-end manufacturing workforce to do that. We have that. We have that. For years, companies were going down to Research Triangle Park down in the Carolinas where people were just giving away land and giving away tax incentives to make these buildings, right? Those companies that did that over a decade have found that you can have the best building in the world. You can have the most beautiful, cost-effective manufacturing facility in the world. If you don't have the humans that can go there every day to make the tricky stuff, it's not sustainable. It's not. So they're all coming back. And to have the M near the folks that do the R and the D is a good thing. If you can drive there, I mean, you think about it. You can leave Dedham, where I live, and get out to Worcester. You can get out to Springfield in no time. It's so much easier than traveling to another state or places like Singapore and India where a lot of this work has gone to. So that's an opportunity. Now, another opportunity that we've found as a result of COVID-19, a lot of the ingredients that go into biomanufacturing, the API approved pharmaceutical ingredients, we had some troubles here recently because even though we were manufacturing large molecule drugs, we didn't have the ingredients, because those weren't made here. So we have companies right now that are doing site selections as we speak that are going to make products further down the commercial cycle earlier on. That is so awesome for Massachusetts. We're huge in cell and gene therapy. To do gene therapy, and gene therapy is a drug that goes into a certain person, changes your genetic makeup, so the disease that you had goes away. It's a cure. We used to invent therapies that treated symptoms of diseases. Now we make cures. You know, when I started here 13 years ago, my board said, Bob, stop saying cure. You're giving people false expectations. I said, baloney. I'm going to use the word cure. Isn't that what we're trying to do? And we actually do it now. That stuff, those viral vectors that you put a payload on to get into a human being to actually do gene therapy, we're really good at making that here. So you see companies like Thermo Fisher Scientific are buying up companies like Brammer that do it. Again, these facilities like Moderna, they're going to manufacture the stuff in Norwood, Massachusetts. You know, Alnylam's down in Norton, right? So all of these manufacturing opportunities are so awesome. It gets me so excited. I look at a city like Brockton, BioReady community gold rating. There's no reason why we can't bring these opportunities to the city of Brockton and to the region. You look at the incubator that's happening, the accelerator in Mansfield. So exciting, because that's how you build these micro clusters. A micro cluster 10 years ago was Worcester. Look at it now. It's one of the biggest biotech clusters in the United States of America, top 10 on its own. That's how these things start. We're doing it out in Springfield, right? You get Bay State doing NIH-funded research now, combined with the Isles building that is at UMass Amherst, and you got the Pioneer Valley Incubator out there and the BIC, the Berkshire Innovation Center. This is amazing what's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. I could go on forever, but I want to go to Q&A, Fred, because I think I've talked way too much here. But as you can see, guys, this is exciting stuff, and I think the silver lining that's going to come out of COVID is the fact that people want to do more of this. The leaders want to do more of this. How proud should we all be because we are leading the way for the entire world to solve the COVID-19 story. My kid started taking that medicine that, like I said, the Trikafta from Vertex. He started taking it 6 months ago. He was losing 5% lung function year over year. He was down below 80%. So what does that mean? There's only a few years left at a point like that. And he does have end-stage liver disease as well. He needs a liver transplant. But this drug, he took it, started taking it. It was approved on November 8th, 2019. Took a couple weeks to get the drug here to Massachusetts and in him. He's gained 20 pounds, grown 4 inches. And not only has his lung function stopped going the wrong way, it's improved by 15%. And this is with the drug. He hasn't been to the hospital. And he might, kids with CF would cost about $500,000 a year in hospitalizations. So now this drug is keeping him alive. We can do that. And it happened, excuse me, it happened right here in Massachusetts, right? I don't care where it happened. I don't care if a cure for CF came from Florida or Singapore, right? I don't care. But it happened here because we're the best at it and we're going to continue to be the best. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope to talk a little bit more to you guys. Let's throw some questions out there. Game on. Let's get this done and everybody get on to having an amazing weekend.
Bobby, we love your passion, your energy. My phone is now fully charged, even though it wasn't plugged in, because of all your energy and the enthusiasm that you bring. You're definitely the right person on the right job at the right time. And we have we have people. And and that's been one of the that's held out the biotech and perfect. I think in front of companies that get out of Cambridge and take advantage of the wealth of resources we have inside this moment.
Yeah, and this is an amazing moment. Like I said, we have confidential site selections going on right now for companies that are going to manufacture viral vectors, vaccines, okay, already. Okay, this is a huge opportunity for us. So we just got to make sure Elizabeth Steele, who's our Director of Economic Development, or Vice President of Economic Development and Global Affairs at MassBio, I would imagine she's working with the local economic development teams. I know that the Brockton economic development folks are plugged in always to make sure we know about these opportunities. So I'll check. I mean, you're a gold rated municipality, that whole area is. And just like, and I threw out the Norwood location and the Norton location, because these are recent things. And I've found, and it's funny because I'll tell you, thank God we don't have the Cambridge Chamber on right now. And I apologize to my brothers and sisters from the Cambridge Chamber if you see this, but the last place I'd put a biotech company is in Cambridge. I wouldn't do it because people are now starting to say and starting to believe that you got to put the jobs where the people are. Right, this transportation issue, I joke about it, right? And I said to the governor when I saw them, I'm like, this COVID-19 is kind of a drastic way to solve the traffic problem, right? And we had a little laugh, right? But this problem is going to come back, right? And we still have infrastructure issues. You can't pile everybody onto the red line to get them into Cambridge. And what people have found as a result of COVID-19, that, hey, I didn't even know how to do Zoom. I do about 10 a day now, right? The entire MassBio team, for the most part, is working remotely, and it still works. The R&D folks, the scientists, the people who have their science, their projects have to be kept alive. They're in the lab. They kept working through all this. R&D was essential the whole time, and that's very important, right? But when you look at what's going to come about after this, people realize you don't need to be right in that cluster. And again, for the manufacturing piece, it's better to go. Put the jobs up 24, 495, 95. I love the whole 128 belt. Remember when back in the day when it was the whole, I think Jim Carlin was Commissioner of Commerce. They did the Make It in Massachusetts campaign. Let's just do it all over again. Enough time passed. Let's just stop making it in Massachusetts. Take the whole playbook, rip it out, cut it and paste it, and do it again, because that's what we're good at, making stuff. And where's it going to go? I know the site you're talking about off of 24 there. That's perfect. It's perfect. And people come from, when you draw the big circles to see where people live around there, that's where they live. They don't want to come into Cambridge or Boston. They don't. We've surveys that prove it. So these, it's awesome because these opportunities right now, I'll bring out these opportunities I'm talking about. I will personally make sure they get down and look at that site.
Great. Make it in Massachusetts or bring it to Brockton.
Yeah.
So, I want to give the mayor an opportunity maybe to ask a question if he has one. And first of all, this is a great beginning of a partnership, and you can see that we can and will and should stay together. But thank you, Bobby.
And before the mayor goes to that, is it all right if I just follow up a little bit? Fred,
Yeah.
look at how many years now have we been talking with Bridgewater State University? Because you have the people there. And what we need to do for underserved communities is create like our Project On-Ramp that we created. The only people who knew about biotech is because their mom and dad worked in biotech. No wonder it was all a bunch of white scientists, right? How do you diversify that? You start teaching first generation folks from underserved, folks whose moms and dads didn't work in that industry, to show it to them, tell them about it, get them the internships. And that's what we're doing with your university. And it's awesome. It's awesome. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I got excited again.
You got excited, really?
Yeah.
Huh? God love you. That's the best. That's the best I've ever seen for 18 weeks. Awesome. Awesome. No, I appreciate what Mr. Coughlin was saying, right? I'm Brockton. We provide wonderful services, right? And again, we have the people here, but we also have the geographic location here, but we also have TIFs and ties and historic tax credits and HDIPs and this and that. And listen, we're ready, willing, and able to work with you. I would love to have further discussions. There's other, what President Clark just said right there. I used to be on Good Sam's board for 10 years. It's really a geographic great location right off of 24, but we have other things on North Pearl Street as well, right? There's an empty bio facility right there. Chris Cooney, you know about that, right after White's right there. So there's a lot we can do. I just wish I had a smidgen of the excitement that Mr. Coughlin has, but we'll continue this. And you know what we'll do? We'll meet down at Bridgewater State and we'll meet with the president down there.
Happy to host.
That sounds great. That sounds great, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Bobby, I wonder for folks who might be listening in, in terms of the state funding, and, and I remember when the 08 monies got released, and it really did help to spur a renaissance, I think, in terms of biotech here in Massachusetts. So the monies that are available, that whether, it's through the state or through the bond bills and that type of thing, are there opportunities for businesses in Metro Brockton to take advantage of those monies, whether it's workforce or companies themselves? And how would you advise that they go about that?
Yeah, any company that's looking to expand, and I'm going to be keep in mind, I don't work for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I have my partners in government from MOBD here with me, but I work with the companies, right? I get paid by the private sector. It's my job to work with my member companies to try to get the best incentives we can, okay? I'm very familiar with all the programs. It's one, if anyone out there says that the first 10-year billion-dollar life science initiative was like a boondoggle, it didn't work, they are wrong. I've been here, I've been in the middle of it, and I know that Shire never would have built the first of its kind, a single batch, large molecule manufacturing facility in Lexington, which was the abandoned Raytheon facility in Lexington. How long was it sitting empty? Filing for abatements, doing nothing for the town of Lexington. Shire wouldn't have come if we weren't able to level the playing field a little bit. Everyone thinks in Massachusetts, everyone comes to the trough for these incentives. We're still not even as competitive as other states, right? We're just trying to show good faith. Keep in mind, the companies want to come here to tap into that workforce. If you can do a tax credit based on new jobs created, okay, why wouldn't we do that? You're still making money. We're able to show just on Shire alone, the commitment that we did a white paper. We have a bunch of white papers on these deals if anyone needs to see them. How much money was put into the Shire deal versus what that meant to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when they created 4,000 jobs, average salary, $130,000 a person. Think of what that does after the tax credit is applied. It's still a windfall of new money. So then we win Shire, we win Bristol-Myers Squibb up at Devon's, right? That was the largest large molecule manufacturing facility in North America. We wouldn't have won it if it weren't for all these different incentives. You look at the fact that Sanofi has the first of its kind, 100% digitally automated, paperless manufacturing facility, right? People come from all over the world to see this, right? And that wouldn't have happened. So when companies are looking to expand and increase their workforce, there's great tax incentives that we can compete for, right? It's not all easy, but you know, you look at the fact Moderna stayed here, Alnylam stayed here, all these companies look at other states, and working with our partners at MOBD, which is an amazing branch of our government, is how we keep them here. And I would just say any companies out there, even we're talking about life sciences, but look what we've been able to do around clean energy with the Clean Energy Center, you know, movies through the film tax credit. I mean, we do really good stuff in this state with our partners in government. Like, think about it, right? What's the only thing that changed? You know, back in, I like to say 2007, 2008. And, you know, and when I was in the House, I was on the taxation committee. We changed the name to revenue because everybody liked revenue and nobody likes taxes. I was involved with that. But we were trying to bring a more stable tax code to the Commonwealth. These, just the fact that we have governors that will make a phone call and shake hands with the CEO of a company and say, hey, we want you here. That didn't happen in the past. How did we lose the information highway? Right? How did we lose that? Well, the information highway, right? While we're building up life sciences and that, we got that industry got stolen from us. We're not going to let that happen in the life sciences, and we're going to continue to build it up.
Bobby, thanks again for sharing your wisdom and energy. And I want to give Chris Cooney the last word and maybe the last question to close it. I know we're a couple of minutes over, but it's always great to see you, my friend. Keep up the good work.
It's great to see you. You keep getting younger. Look at you. Academia is good. I might want to try that next, so keep me in mind.
Good. Keep me in mind.
Just bring that company to Brockton and you got it.
You got it. All right, Chris.
But Bob, thanks so much for your comments and your commitment to really working with us, to putting Brockton's gold standard out there to companies. You know, in working with the state in prior years, you know, these companies want to be in Massachusetts because of your work and about the work that the state has done. And oftentimes they look at that designation. I know we have a couple in Canton and Rockland that looked at that designation for platinum, which is a little bit better than gold.
Sure.
And they ended up there, and they ended up growing there. So I know in talking with the mayor and the team in the city, I think we would like to work with Good Samaritan to get that site ready. So that there's no question that it is the best place.
Could you get it pre-permitted?
Yeah, well, that's what I think we can do with the REIT. The REIT owns the steward's property, and they'll lease it back to the hospital, but there's another 40 acres there.
If we could pre-permit it, make it platinum, and start showing it off. That's how you do it. I mean, it's a perfect location from a workforce standpoint. It's perfect.
Yeah, agreed. So thank you very much. So we're going to be back in 2 weeks for a follow-up call. We'll probably be dissecting the new phase 4 stimulus out of Congress and what that means locally and how we can access that. And then, of course, we'll be back on the 21st with the folks from Partridge, Hahn, and Snow, who I might have that in the wrong order, but that are attorneys and accountants. We're going to talk about the opportunity zones and about how this all ties in with opportunity. We need to keep on focusing on hope and on positivity and the future, because this COVID stuff can start to drag us down a bit, I think. Anyway, I do want to remind you, we have the governor committed for October 7th. He'll be either in person or online, depending on what is allowed at that point. We also have the race director for the Boston Marathon coming to speak at our annual meeting in November on the 18th of November. And he is an inspiration in his own right and has a little bit of time on his hands since the marathon has been waylaid this year. And before that, in September, we're working with the New England Real Estate Journal on the 17th to do a panel on relocating companies from Boston to Route 24, Route 3. We really wanted to jump on that opportunity, and the fact that we've had a lot of residential growth south of Boston, and we have a lot of people commuting into Boston. It's an opportunity to really talk about how we can kind of seize that opportunity. So the New England Real Estate Journal will be working with us on that. Other than that, thanks folks for tuning in. Thanks to all of our panelists for being with us again. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Lexi.